What's up, everybody? It's your man J-Rock, and I'm coming at you with another episode of the J-Rock Show today. And once again, joining me in the booth is my brother Siege. How are we doing today, man?
Oh, we're doing great, man. Beautiful Friday. Just excited to be alive. How about you?
Oh yeah, man. Same here, same here. And within the last week, SimWorld U roster is finalized. Commitment Day has passed us. The official recruiting class rankings are out. So I think now is the perfect time to give our preseason top 25 rankings for heading into the season.
Well, I can give you an idea, but let me see if I can get my notes out. Give you a whole 25, J-Rock. All right, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start, and we can. Okay, so going from the top down, to me, number one team, no question. For me, it's Miami. Defending champs, return literally everybody. You bring in a top 5 player in SWU in Kevon Jackson, and then you bring in Richard Hennessy. To me, until they are beaten, they are the clear-cut team at number one.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any pushback on that one. I mean, they brought in Kevon Jackson on top of what was already a championship-winning roster, so hard to argue with that. They're going to be my number one as well.
All right, and who do you have at number 2, Siege?
At 2, I actually, preseason-wise, I'm actually going to go with Rutgers here. I think they brought in an insane class. I think what they're looking like right now, I think they fully deserve to be in that number 2 spot.
Okay, I like that. Now, while I have Rutgers top 10, I wasn't ready to throw them in the top 3 just yet, so I went with Duke. I think when it came to the recruiting class rankings and, also now our personal preseason top 25 rankings, the commitment of Viktoras Ilgauskas simply just elevated them to another level, even with them already having, your Cooper Flag, your Adilson Sampaio. So the top 2 teams for me are both going to be ACC schools, and actually, I take that back, top 3, because I've got UNC at 3 as well. So the ACC for me is just going to be absolutely loaded. So
yeah, absolutely. Should be a really competitive conference. For me, I have Duke at that 3 spot right after Rutgers. And then at the 4, I got Tennessee at the 4 with Vekic and Trey Turner returning. I think they added a couple good pieces, so I got Tennessee up there at 4.
All right, I actually have Tennessee at the 4 spot too. No argument there. I mean, Trey Turner, one of the best scorers in the country. Vekic, one of the more underrated bigs. And at the 5, I've got the defending runner-ups. I've got UConn Huskies, bringing in Norman Nations, returning for Reed Redmond. They've still got that, Final Four roster returning from last season. And I think they're definitely worthy of a top 5 ranking.
Well, they didn't quite make my 5 spot, but I have the Crimson Tide at 5, DJ Childs returning with a couple other guys over there, as well as bringing in Levin Cutler and then some guard help with Coco Bryce and Aiden Weaver to kind of play that 2 next to DJ Childs. I think that team's going to be dangerous. I think they're one of the deeper teams you're going to find in the Power 5 conferences, but I do have UConn sitting at 6 right after that.
I like that. I think that's the ideal range for, UConn coming in. And you can say, yeah, you factor in last season a little bit, but that doesn't hold all be all. And when you compare, rosters of UConn, when you compare UConn's roster to Duke or Miami or UNC or Tennessee's even, at this point right now, it just doesn't add up there for me enough to put them past either of those. But then at the 6th, I've actually got Rutgers. with Dylan Harper coming in, Orland Mock, Cootie Zoe, Jermaine Owens, I wasn't quite ready enough to put them in my top 5 yet, but I think they will definitely be there at some point in the season.
All right. Well, at 7, I've got coming in UNC. I think it was a good recruiting class. I don't think it was their best ever, but got some good pieces coming in. I think they deserve a top 10 spot in the preseason, but I don't know how long they'll stay there. I don't know if I quite believe in the team they've put together, but I like the individual players they brought in, so they're my 7. And coming in after them, I actually have UNLV sitting at the 8.
Okay. At the 7 for me, this might be my first shock. I've got Maryland at 7. Cooper Kingy Cross, was an animal for them in the tournament last year. Might be a little high of a ranking, but they're bringing in VJ George. They're also returning a lot. I'd look out for Maryland to, also make some noise this season.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it for sure. Yeah, did I say my 8 already, JR?
Oh, no, I didn't. So
Okay,
at my number 8, you already mentioned him. I've got Alabama. Bringing in Levin, Coco Bryce, Aiden Weaver, excuse me. And then, like you said, returning DJ Childs, one of the more underrated players in the country. They definitely have a legitimate shot at winning the SEC, I think, and I could very well see it being a 2-horse race between them and Alabama in that conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between Alabama and Tennessee. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be interesting in there. At 9, I think I've got Michigan at 9.
Okay.
Lorenzo Phenom is simply unstoppable. And add Samuel Bogus, his old teammate, to the mix. They should be pretty hard to stop. And at 10, I've got coming in Illinois. I mean, can't complain with that recruiting class they got. It was insane. So Illinois is my 10.
And I actually have the same 2 schools in my 9 and 10 spots, but flip-flopped. Illinois, bringing in D'Angelo Jordan, Kyrie Holtzclaw, Zagor, that Lakeshore Drive connection. And then they've got experience coming back in Towns Romanowski, who I think was one of the more underrated players overall in the Big Ten last season. And then, got Corey Harris as some experience in that backcourt. Senso Ferdinand Harris. I mean, definitely going to be a force in the Big Ten. And then Michigan, like you said, one of the more dominant players in SWU in Lorenzo Phenom. Bringing in Samuel Bogus. And one of the more... This wasn't a, high-profile, maybe sexy signing by Michigan, but I think this is one that is definitely intriguing and going to pay off for them. Carlos Buffini from SimWorld Europe, coming in that backcourt to sort of play alongside Samuel Bogus. I think that is definitely one to keep an eye on. May not be the sexiest, but I think it is. I like that signing for Michigan.
Yeah, it's a good signing. It's low key. They need role guys around their 2 stars there. So I like that. At 11, I'm gonna go. A lot of good teams, but at 11, I'm gonna go Kentucky. I mean, they're bringing back Jamison Johnson and Glory Tate. That's really all you need to know. And then the additions of Adonis Knight, who came on pretty strong late in the season, great scorer, and Victor Soto, kind of a Swiss Army knife, do it all kind of guy there. So they're gonna be my 11. Trey Trust also brought him in, so I just like what they've done with the roster, and they're returning 2 really talented guys in Jamison and Glory Tate. I think even with the loss of Calipari, I think they've got enough talent to continue competing.
Yeah, without question. I do also have Kentucky in my top 25, but like you said, with the coaching change and everything whatnot, I still think they'll be competitive. But they're like Rutgers too, in a sense that I'm not ready to kind of give them that boost quite yet, but could very well see them being, within that range and top 10 at some point, during the season. At 11 for me, I've actually got UNLV. Jarrell Beauchamp, Keontae Smythe, Sky Durant. I've been high on UNLV from the minute they started locking guys up in this recruiting class. I really think running Rebel, good OG running Rebels basketball is about to be back in Las Vegas.
Hell yeah, I hope so. I hope so. At 12, I've got. Well, I think actually at 12, I'm gonna go. Give me Houston at the 12. They're a talented team. Added some more guys. I like what they got going, and yeah, real simple. Houston at my 12, and at my 13, I've got. You know what? Give me Villanova at my 13. I think people
Okay.
are overlooking how good that team's about to be. You add Justin Bell as well as Mugen Williams, who's very underrated, big, great defensive, runs the floor. That's my 13 right there, Villanova.
All right. I respect that. Now, I've also have Houston at my 12 there, enough said. But at 13, I'm actually going to go with the Longhorns from Texas. Bringing in, Arthur Lattimore, Vincent Magic, the triple-double man himself. Texas, I am very much ready to see what they will do with those two on the roster. And, like it's been talked about before, Arthur Lattimore played as more of a big at the prep level, but he projects more as a wing player, a rim attacking wing player at the SWU level. That is one of the more interesting storylines, I think, for me, just in the Big 12 heading into this upcoming season, to see how that will go for them.
All right, yeah. I mean, they're a talented team. At 14, that's actually where I've got Texas sitting as the 14. Real simple. Good team, good players. No reason they shouldn't be up there. To be honest, I think you could put them a little higher, but I like the teams I put up there above them. So I'm going to keep them at the 14. And at the 15, give me Oklahoma at the 15. I think that Suno Chapa, Jace Miguez duo is going to be a really scary one, the two of them.
Oh,
I'm
without
hearing that Suno.
question. Without question.
I'm hearing that Suno Chapa is looking like one of the most impressive freshmen to ever come into Norman. So I'm excited to see how him and Jace Miguez kind of mesh. I'm gonna have them at my 15.
Yeah, Oklahoma is another school I have in this rankings as well. But at 14 for me, I've got Kansas. They're returning Madison Miles, one of the more underrated scorers in SimWorld U. They're bringing in Nas Hall and Charles Pinkard. I think they could end up having one of the better backcourts in all of SWU. And then at 15 for me, I've got Gonzaga. Returning, Caden Shipp's coming back. You're bringing in Damian Luffy. I think they are definitely the team they are the favorites to win it out west in their conference at this point.
At the 16, I'm actually gonna take Michigan State at the 16. They brought in Malcolm Chamberlain. They needed that big. They also got G Edge from the G League. Since they disbanded, he's really, really talented, and I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people who haven't been paying too much attention to what's going on outside of SimWorld Prep.
Okay, I like that. For me at 16, I have to go Baylor. I like what Scott Drew's bringing in, maybe not a high-powered offensive bunch, but I think defensively they are going to be some absolute dogs. And then but following that up at 17, I do have Michigan State. Like you said, they had a big hole in their team, last season with not having that intimidating inside presence. And, Chamberlain will definitely provide that for them.
Well, at 17, or I already said 17, didn't I? No, I didn't. I don't know. 17, I got Marquette. I like the recruiting class they brought in is really impressive. They got 2 ultra talented players in Lucas Banks and Alex Rodriguez, and then added a defender in AJ Blaylock. So I really like what they got going. So I'm going to go with them. And at 18, I've got Baylor. Like you said, I like what they brought in. I think Red Jontner is extremely talented, well overlooked. I think his game will translate really well to the collegiate level. So they're going to be my 18.
All right, I like that. For me at 18, I've got Arkansas, actually. John Calipari taking over the reins there. Bringing in Nick Bowie and also DJ Wagner transferring in. And they've already got Jarek Ware, Rollins Durrett Caster, Norvell DeJean Jones, Isabello Avery, just to name a few. I really like what Coach Cal has on his team at this point at Arkansas. And I think they could definitely go on a potential postseason run, down the line this season.
Could see it. At 19, this one might shock some people because this is not a team that you'd usually see getting put into a top 25. But I'm gonna go Jackson State. D. Woodley is a monster. They still got JJ Ruff there, Buddy Shock. They got great guards over there, and they added Renzo Bryant. I think they're a little undersized. Their biggest guy being Richard Alpine, who they just brought in. But I'm gonna give Jackson State and head coach Mo Williams a chance here. And then at 20, I've got Kansas. Consistently a powerhouse. Madison Miles is sensational. Addition of Nas Hall. This team's gonna be really good.
Oh yeah, without question, they're going to be a force in the Big 12. And then at 19 for me, that's where I have Oklahoma. Like you said, Jace Miguez, Suno Chapa looking like an absolute Greek god in Norman thus far, from what reports have come out of there. And I've always been a fan of Jace Miguez, even from his time at Lone Star. And I just always liked the idea of pairing him with Suno Chapa. I think that backcourt's going to be really, really scary. And then at 20 for me, I've got Davidson. Bringing in probably their best recruiting class that they've ever had in Benari James.
At the 21 for me, I got Memphis. Lacedarius Outlaw. That's all I'm going to say. They got Lacedarius Outlaw. They're 21. And then at 22, that's where I've got Davidson. Like you said, sensational recruiting class for them. Really brought it on the recruiting trail this year, so they deserve that spot.
Yeah, without question. And at 21, I also have Memphis. And then at 22, that's where I have Marquette. Bringing in 2 of the better scorers in SW in the entire recruiting cycle in Lucas Banks and Alex Rodriguez, bringing in defense, like you said, in AJ Blaylock. Marquette is going to make things very interesting in the Big East Conference.
That they will. Very talented team. At 23, I'm going to give Gonzaga their spot. I'm not in love with this roster, but I do like the 3 Oceania players that they were able to bring in with Damian Luffy heading that one up. Musa Mashad, great big. So I think they deserve a 23 spot. That's where I'm gonna put them. And then at 24, we're gonna give Maryland their spot here at 24. I'm not in love with the roster. Of course, they got Kingy Cross, who's always gonna make them competitive. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to be a world beater. So we're gonna put Maryland there at 24.
All right, I respect that. At 23 for me, when I was going through making this, I just kept coming back to Auburn. I really like what they brought in Bevinson Patches, Barkley James, bringing in a little bit of defense, a little bit of shooting. They have a nice bunch returning. Bruce Pearl, I think, shocked a lot of people on the recruiting trail this time around. So I've got Auburn at the 23, and then at the 24, I've got Villanova. Aaron Lovejoy coming back. You're bringing in Justin Bell and Williams. I mean, Villanova and Marquette, I think, are going to be having some crazy battles out east in the Big East for that conference.
Yeah, it's going to be a good battle. 25, rounded out. This is where I'm going to give Coach Cal and DJ Wagner and Nick Bowie and the crew their shouts out at 25. Arkansas is my 25. Rounded out.
All right, I like that. At 25, this is where I've actually got Kentucky. Like you said, Trav Cunningham, Stephon Burks, Adonis Knight, but also Victor Soto. Victor Soto was one of the more unsung heroes for APAC, the past 2 seasons. I definitely like him going to Kentucky. And to round things up, Siege, if you had, say, 4 teams that you would put receiving votes or right on the bubble, who would they be?
I think LSU deserves kind of a shout out. Really love that they have so many really talented bigs at LSU, but I think that could be their downfall. Is the rotation over there? I'm not sure how they're going to manage all of that. So I think they make my bubble. I think Florida makes my bubble. I like what they brought in. Ism and Trey Willis, both great athletes. They've got good bigs on that squad. And the third team I'll place on my bubble. I actually think Creighton makes the bubble for me. I've heard a lot of really good things coming out of their camp, out of their practices, that the chemistry between Ethan Letterman and Mark Chisholm, who we know didn't play together in SimWorld Prep, but are, 2 very, very good friends, has been infectious and is kind of, showing its way throughout the whole team. So I'm going to put Creighton there on the bubble with them.
I like that. For me, first one, it's Georgetown. Struggled the last several seasons, but they're bringing in, JoJo Kearney, one of the best defensive bigs from this entire recruiting cycle, bringing in Jay Laster and Keith Singleton. I could very well see Jay Laster sort of taking that next step offensively. Hasn't really ever had his explosive moments in SimWorld Prep, but I think Georgetown is the perfect place to kind of draw that out of him. And then following them up, I've got St. Mary's. Kai Newby, Dime Hardaway, Brendan Romine. I think St. Mary's are going to have some great matchups against Gonzaga and make things interesting out west. And then I've also got Creighton and LSU. Like you said, the chemistry on Creighton between Letterman and Chisholm has been insane from what reports have indicated. And then LSU, like you said, Akeem Young, I think, is going to be one of the better bigs in the SEC overall. But like you said, I think it comes down to how do you find that right mix of minutes, in the rotation. Because we've seen it time and time again, mismanagement of a rotation can honestly dispel a whole season.
Well, yeah, and you got Patricio Ramirez on that roster with him.
Patricio as well, yeah.
Patricio was an absolute monster last year and in his time in SimWorld Prep. So, I mean, that it's going to be interesting because neither of them are space the floor kind of bigs, So we'll see how they handle it. But too much talent, it's not too bad of a problem to have.
Without question, without question. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for today's episode of the J-Rock Show. Siege, as always, thank you for joining me.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, y'all, this has been J-Rock and Siege with the J-Rock Show. See y'all next week, and as always, see the game, be the game.